Now, GTA is a game about chaos, but sometimes they try to step in romantic or love interest side. And today, we're gonna how love interests in GTA evolved. Back in 2001, when GTA 3 hit the streets, Rockstar was all about creating this wild, open-world sandbox where players could run amok. The protagonist, Claude, was as silent as a mime, and about as romantically inclined as a brick. Sure, there was Catalina, but she was less of a love interest and more of a shoot you and leave you for dead interest. Claude's interactions with women like Maria were purely transactional, means to an end in the criminal underworld. Then comes 2002. Now, Tommy had a bit more personality than Claude, thank you, Ray Liotta. But when it came to love, he was still playing it cool. Like Antarctic cool. There was Mercedes, but let's be real. That relationship had all the depth of a puddle in the Sahara. These games weren't about love. They were about building a criminal empire and looking good doing it. For Rockstar at this point, crafting intricate love stories or deep family backgrounds was like putting spoilers on a horse. Unnecessary and kind of missing the point. They were focused on nailing the basics, a sprawling city to explore, crazy missions to complete, and enough mayhem to make your head spin. The protagonists were more like blank slates, letting players project whatever they wanted onto them. Need a backstory? Here's a vague mention of a troubled past. Family? Nah. Too complicated. Love interest? Here's a female character who might flirt with you once or twice. Now go blow up that building. Rockstar was painting in broad strokes back then. They were pioneers, figuring out how to make these massive, interactive worlds work. Adding in complex relationships or deep character histories? That was like trying to add a fine art gallery to a monster truck rally. Cool idea, but not really what the crowd came for at the time. In these early GTAs, love was more likely to refer to your relationship with your favorite weapon than any romantic entanglement. It was a simpler time, where the only chemistry that mattered was the kind that made things go boom. Then came San Andreas. San Andreas was like Rockstar's awkward teenage years when it came to handling relationships. They knew they wanted to add more depth to the protagonist, CJ, and part of that meant giving him a love life. But it was kinda like watching your cool uncle try to use social media for the first time. The effort was there, but the execution was a bit clumsy. First off, we got introduced to Denise Robinson, CJ's girl from the hood. This was Rockstar's first real attempt at a girlfriend mechanic in GTA. You could take her on dates, drive-bys, because nothing says romance like spraying bullets at rival gangs, and even unlock a special outfit. But let's be real, the whole thing felt about as deep as a kiddie pool. The conversations were repetitive, the dates were more like ticking boxes on a checklist, and there wasn't much character development. Then came the other girlfriends, scattered across the state. You had Millie Perkins, the croupier who CJ seduces for a heist, because why separate business and pleasure, right? There was Helena Wankstein, the lawyer who inexplicably hangs out in the middle of nowhere. And let's not forget Katie Jean, the nurse who apparently spends more time at the gym than the hospital. Each of these ladies had their own little quirks and preferences, which was a step up from the non-existent love lives in previous GTAs. But they still felt more like video game achievements than actual characters. It was less about building meaningful relationships and more about unlocking rewards, new cars, weapons, or outfits. The big romance in the game was supposed to be with Catalina, but that relationship had all the stability of a Jenga tower in an earthquake. It served more as a plot device to get CJ out of Los Santos and introduce the countryside than any real exploration of love or relationships. Now don't get me wrong, this was progress. Rockstar was trying to add more layers to the GTA experience. They recognized that players might want their protagonists to have a bit more going on in their lives than just crime and carnage. But they were still finding their feet. The love interests in San Andreas were like the first pancake in the batch. A good attempt, but not quite there yet. They added flavor to the game, sure, but they weren't fully baked ideas. The relationships, in the end, San Andreas's approach to love interests was a step in the right direction. But it was more of a cautious sidestep than a confident stride. It showed that Rockstar was willing to expand the emotional range of their games, but they hadn't quite figured out how to make these relationships resonate with players in a meaningful way. GTA 4 marked a significant shift in tone for the series. Gone were the over-the-top antics of San Andreas, replaced by a grittier, more grounded narrative. Niko Bellic, our protagonist, wasn't just some blank slate criminal. He was a man haunted by his past, trying to find his place in the land of opportunity that turned out to be anything but. This more serious tone extended to how Rockstar approached relationships and love interests. Enter Kate McCreary, the sister of Packy McCreary, one of Niko's criminal associates. Kate wasn't your typical GTA girlfriend material. She wasn't a criminal, wasn't particularly impressed by Niko's tough guy act, and had her own set of moral standards. This was Rockstar's attempt at creating a more nuanced, realistic love interest, someone who could potentially be a positive influence on our anti-hero. The relationship between Niko and Kate develops slowly throughout the game. It's not about instant attraction or physical intimacy. Instead, it's built on conversations, shared experiences, and a growing understanding between two people from very different worlds. Kate sees the good in Niko, the man behind the criminal exterior, and Niko finds in Kate a potential path to redemption, a chance at a normal life away from the violence and crime that has defined his existence. But here's where Rockstar throws a wrench in the works. They make this relationship incredibly fragile. Throughout the game, players have choices to make, and these choices affect Niko's relationship with Kate. She's not impressed by his criminal activities, and players who go all in on the violent, amoral path might find Kate distancing herself. It's a subtle but effective way of showing how our actions have consequences, not just in the game world, but in our personal relationships too. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room: the ending. Rockstar, in their infinite wisdom, or sadism, depending on how you look at it, decided to make Kate's fate a pivotal part of the game's climax. Depending on the player's choices, Kate might end up dead, gunned down at Roman's wedding in a case of mistaken identity. It's a gut punch of an ending, one that drives home the game's themes of the cyclical nature of violence and the difficulty of escaping one's past. This approach to Kate as a love interest was miles away from the superficial girlfriends of San Andreas. She wasn't there just for mini-games or unlockable content. Kate represented something more, a potential future for Niko, a chance at normalcy and happiness. By potentially taking her away at the end, Rockstar was making a statement about the world they'd created in GTA 4. A world where happy endings are hard to come by, especially for someone with Niko's history. But Kate wasn't the only romantic option in GTA 4. There was also Carmen Ortiz, a nurse who Niko could date. However, compared to the depth of Niko's relationship with Kate, Carmen felt more like a callback to the older GTA style of girlfriends, someone to go on dates with, but without the same level of narrative importance. Rockstar's approach to love interests in GTA 4 was a clear evolution from previous games. They were trying to create more three-dimensional characters, people with their own motivations and moral compasses. The relationships weren't just about unlocking content anymore. They were integral parts of the story, influencing the protagonist's journey and the game's themes. In many ways, GTA 4's approach to love interests, particularly with Kate, was Rockstar experimenting with how far they could push the emotional boundaries of their storytelling. They were asking players to invest not just in the action and the criminal escapades, but in Niko's personal life and emotional journey. This marked a turning point for the series. It showed that Rockstar was willing to tackle more complex emotional territory, to use relationships as a way to develop character and theme, rather than just as side content. It wasn't perfect. The binary nature of Kate's fate felt a bit forced, and the relationship development could have been more fleshed out. But it was a significant step forward in terms of narrative ambition. Finally, GTA 5. In GTA 5, we've got 3 protagonists instead of 1, which already shakes things up in the relationship department. Each of our anti-heroes, Michael, Franklin, and Trevor, has their own unique situation when it comes to love and relationships. Michael's story is all about that midlife crisis vibe, and his relationship with his wife Amanda is front and center. Unlike previous GTAs, we're dealing with a long-term marriage here, and well, let's just say it's seen better days. Amanda and Michael's relationship is a train wreck in slow motion. They're stuck in this love-hate dynamic, with Amanda cheating on Michael with her tennis coach and yoga instructor, while Michael drowns his sorrows in alcohol and crime. It's like a soap opera with guns and heists. What's interesting here is that Rockstar doesn't just play this for laughs. There are moments of real tension, sadness, and even tenderness between Michael and Amanda. We see them struggle, separate, and eventually try to work things out. It's not a typical love interest situation, but it adds a layer of complexity to Michael's character and motivations. Now, Franklin's love life is a bit more traditional in GTA terms, but still with some twists. He's got Tanisha, his ex-girlfriend from the hood who's trying to move up in the world. Their relationship is a classic can't be together, can't stay apart situation. Tanisha represents the life Franklin could have if he went straight, and their interactions often highlight the conflict between Franklin's criminal ambitions and his desire for a normal life. It's not a full-blown romance subplot, but it adds depth to Franklin's character arc. Then there's Tanya, Franklin's crack-addicted friend who's always getting him into trouble. While not a romantic relationship, it shows another side of Franklin's connections to his old life. Oh boy, Trevor. His approach to love and relationships is about as subtle as a Molotov cocktail. Trevor's got a twisted thing going on with Patricia Madrazo, the wife of a cartel boss he kidnaps. It's Stockholm Syndrome meets a weird sense of genuine affection, and it's as messed up as you'd expect from Trevor. But the real kicker with Trevor is his relationship with Michael. While not romantic, their bond is arguably the deepest and most complex relationship in the game. It's a bromance gone wrong, filled with betrayal, loyalty, and a whole lot of unresolved issues. What's different about GTA 5's approach to love interests and relationships is how integrated they are into the overall narrative. They're not just side activities or unlock mechanics anymore. These relationships inform character decisions, drive plot points, and add emotional weight to the story. At the same time, Rockstar kept these relationships somewhat on the periphery. They're important, but they're not the main focus. It's like they found a middle ground between the more serious approach of GTA 4 and the lighter touch of earlier games. This approach allows Rockstar to have their cake and eat it too. They can explore more mature themes and add depth to their characters through these relationships, but without alienating players who are here primarily for the action and satire. It's also worth noting the diversity in the types of relationships portrayed. We've got everything from long-term marriages to fleeting encounters, from wholesome-ish romance to deeply dysfunctional bonds. But it's fair to say that GTA 5 still doesn't quite nail the romantic aspect. The relationships, while more complex than in previous games, still often feel like they're there to serve the plot or character development, rather than being fully realized in their own right. GTA 5 represents another evolution in how Rockstar handles love interests and relationships in the series. It's more integrated, more varied, and more central to character development than ever before. But it still keeps these elements as part of the larger tapestry of the game world, rather than making them a primary focus. It's a balancing act between adding emotional depth and maintaining the chaotic, satirical tone that defines GTA. And we are done. What do you think of my analysis? Let me know in the comments section, and I shall you in the next video. Till then, take care, and have a nice day. See ya.